we are all born superhuman. And I discovered that over my journey of taking on many, many different challenges through life. And I say to everybody, we all have miracles within us. We just need to unleash them. And so I like to think of myself as the person that can help you unlock your greatest potential.
This is your coach, Bill Goodwin. Welcome to the Priority Living Podcast.
Well, friend, thank you for joining me today. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited about my guest today. Today's guest has lived one of the most fascinating and really diverse careers you're going to hear. Dan Metcalfe has coached elite soccer players, trained Olympic athletes, professional athletes. He's worked behind the scenes on major Hollywood films as a soccer choreographer and coach. My goodness, including Kicking and Screaming and She's the Man. He's become an internationally recognized speaker and wellness educator. I could go on and on, but you're going to get to hear his story. So I want to just take this opportunity to say that my guest helps athletes, business leaders, everyday people unlock health, resilience, and performance. With that, Dan Metcalfe, welcome.
Thanks, Bill. It's great to be here on the Priority Living Podcast. And whoever you were just talking about, I want to meet that guy.
Well, I'm glad I met him and I'm talking to him right now. Isn't that fantastic? And let's just dive right in, Dan. When people are meeting you for the first time and you're introducing yourself, who's Dan Metcalfe?
That's a great question because there's so many sides to my story. But basically, I believe that we are all born superhuman. And I discovered that over my journey of taking on many, many different challenges through life. And I say to everybody, we all have miracles within us. We just need to unleash them. And so I like to think of myself as the person that can help you unlock your greatest potential and realize that you are beyond. But when we'll get into this a little bit more, but when it comes down to who you are, we really have underachieved our potential. And everybody knows there's more to them that's been seen. And they have partly given up on that because nobody's given the permission to be everything they're born to be. But it's not anybody else's responsibility. It's your responsibility to let your light shine.
This is fantastic. And I know that we're going to really dive into mindset and how we unlock and become all that we are capable of becoming. So that's where we're headed, friends. A lot of mindset talk here coming up. But let's do some background. Let's do some more backstory, learning about you, Dan. When you were a kid growing up, first of all, where did you grow up and what did you dream about becoming?
I grew up in a place called Bournemouth back in England. It's on the very south coast, beautiful beach. It'd be even better if we had sunshine over there. But it was beautiful. We had the forests around us. We had the beaches. The sand is as good as any sand you'll find anywhere. And I grew up in an environment which football, soccer, was the only thing that interests me. Everything in my life revolved around soccer. And what was great was I wasn't a naturally great footballer. I grew up in a very religious family. I wasn't allowed to play football on Sundays. All the teams played on Sundays. And so I was the last kid picked in the playground. I didn't have any friends that I could go and play football with. And I was really left solo having this dream and having to figure it out for myself, which I have a saying, everything that happens to us is a gift if we wrap it correctly. And I didn't know at the time, but what a gift that challenge was to be able to face adversity as a young kid and then, take that into the challenges I've had in life later on.
Wow, that's a great quote. Will you say that again? Because I need to grab a hold of that one. What was the statement there about a gift?
Yeah, it's basically everything is a gift if we wrap it correctly. And we have to learn the lesson. We have to see why it's there because we don't know what's coming. But we won't have any challenges that we don't need for later on in life.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. So then that's all in your upbringing. Soccer had become such a defining part of your life. When did it move from playing soccer to getting involved in coaching?
Yes, so I didn't make any team until I was 14, and I literally got 7 minutes in the last game of the season. But in that 7 minutes, I ran 12 years of playing. They gave me a position at right midfield, and I ran all over that field. It was an incredible experience just to be where all the work finally came that I got on the field. And then I went on to play for my state or county, as we call them back in England. And then I became captain of the county team, and then was able to continue to progress, became very respected as a player, and ended up making it to a professional club. And then when I got to the professional club, I realized it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And that was one of the hardest decisions of my life, to walk out on the contract that I had, because I knew it wasn't my passion. I thought it was one thing, but the ability to pivot was critical, because so many of us end up staying in a place that we're not happy with, but we're too scared to move. And that's a limiter in life. We're not scared to move because of what's in front of us. We're scared to move because we forgot to trust in ourselves.
Oh, there's so much to unpack right there. And I know we're going to get to more of that. That's got to be tied right into some of our own mindset and some of the limiting factors or limiting beliefs that we have, and it can keep us stuck. So um, I think that our friend that's listening can really benefit from us diving into that a little bit more. So we're going to come back to that about moving from where we are to where we want to be. I think it's interesting when you talked about it was, many years until you had that opportunity to be the midfielder and get on the field. And I really believe that so often things in our life are stored up before they show up. And so sometimes we feel like we're ready to get on the field and play, and I'm sure you probably were. But over all the years of practice and preparation, that absolutely the time that you were put on the field, it had already been stored up in you, and now it was time for it to show up through you. So I think that's fascinating. So we're gonna probably be bouncing back and forth with some soccer along the way, but then you pivoted to a life in Hollywood along with high performance, and I just find this so fascinating. You're a little bit like Forrest Gump. You have a lot of these different parts of your story. So let's jump there. How did you get connected with Hollywood, along with Hollywood producers, and the whole aspect of coaching when it comes to movies?
Yeah, well, first off, I'll say thank goodness not everything works out the way we wanted it to, because we get our mind set on something so much. And if it doesn't come to us, we feel that we've lost or failed or our life's over. And I wouldn't
Mm.
be here today if things had have gone the way that I dreamt them to be. And so I'm so fortunate to have lived the life. But if I had have tried to stick to what I wanted and not gone with the flow, there's a saying that I love that used to be above my dressing room door when I was in theater that said, only dead fish, let me say that again, only dead fish swim with the tide. And I love that saying, because sometimes you got to be a rebel against the current, as we know salmon are trying to get back up the river. And so when I left football, I'd done 8 years training with the Royal Marine Cadets. So I was going to go into the Royal Marines, and I started doing aerobics to get supple for mountain climbing. And the teacher there said, you should become a dancer. I'm like, a dancer? What do you mean a dancer? I'm a man's man. I had the shaved hair, the backpacks. I'm running with 50-pound packs and stuff. And so she dared me, and I did it for a laugh because I knew that I'd be signing up for the Marines in a couple of weeks. So I went up to Lane Theatre Arts, a beautiful, incredible dance and theatre school in London, just for fun. And at the end of my audition, they offered me a full 3-year scholarship to start in 2 weeks' time. And as Mark Burnett loves to say with the title of his book, and Mark from Survivor and Apprentice and one of the biggest TV producers in the world, just jump in. Just go for it. What have you got to lose? Because we always have something else that we can jump to. So ended up going in there, studying, playing the lead in Andrew Lloyd Webber shows. If those of you that don't know Andrew Lloyd Webber, he wrote the shows Phantom of the Opera, Jesus Christ Superstar, Cats, Starlight Express, Evita, so many shows. And I ended up playing the lead in his shows because I found out I could sing, I could dance. I had done ballet, got trained by Richard Glaston, who was the head of the Royal Ballet School in England. And everything was going great until I opened a show for Andrew out in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Hilton. And I had an accident on stage during a performance where I fractured my spine and I was paralyzed. And the doctor said that I would be disabled for life. And that was really the next trajectory into Hollywood, because I couldn't get back on stage and I refused to sign that I would be disabled for life, because as soon as I signed that paper, nobody would ever be able to employ me again because I would be an insurance liability. So I had to take it onto myself to find the solution for my paralysis rather than just accept somebody else's word. And this is really where the mindset began to take over, the awareness, because before we were kids, we just do things, right? Everyone just got up, we did it, we climbed trees. We never thought about climbing the tree, we just did it. But
Yes.
we'd think as we were going, how do I get up? As adults, we're numbed down and dumbed down to not, we overthink and don't take action. So after that paralysis, I moved to Los Angeles and very quickly began to get into movies. I had my own office down at Universal Studios. Shot my own documentary with Mark Burnett, and have been fortunate to have worked with everyone from Channing Tatum, Will Ferrell, Robert Duvall, who sadly passed away recently, Amanda Bynes, some incredible actors and people. So that's a quick summary. Otherwise, we'd need about 12 hours on this podcast.
I know you have such a depth to your story. So I'm glad that you're taking, even if we're skimming over the waves on some of it, I'm so glad that we're not leaving it out. I didn't know of the injury in theater, which then was part of the segue to get you into the role that you played in Hollywood. So what's something behind the scenes? Let's just talk Hollywood for a moment. What's some things behind the scenes that you experienced that maybe most people wouldn't know?
It's a really long process. When you have a movie, I was working on Kicking and Screaming, which is the football movie, soccer movie with Will Ferrell, for about 5 months. And there's so many legalities you have to go through in finding the actors. And one of the things that people won't know is often parts are cast already. So for example, if you want Tom Cruise to be in a movie, the agency can say, okay, this is what he's going to be. They say, we don't have the budget. Well, okay, we can put him into the movie, but you've got to hire 5 other actors from our agency in supporting roles. Otherwise, we're not going to give him to you, because the agent would then continue to make their commission. And so sadly, a lot of people would show up, audition, thinking they had a chance, but those parts were already given away. But for union rules, you had to audition anyway. So it is a cruel business. It's a tough business. And on Kicking and Screaming, I got taken to the secret room at Universal Studios, a guy called Brubaker, Mr. Brubaker at the time, and they fired the whole they fired the whole production, let everyone go. And I saw the director collapse outside. It was very, very sad. So it's in a very emotional place to be. Unfortunately, I was one of 2 people that was kept on to continue working until we resumed with a whole new crew behind the scene.
Wow, that must have been quite a stressful time for everyone that was involved with that. And then you're in the midst of it, and yet the movie's not done yet. So regaining, picking it up, that is quite a process there, quite a process. And then there you are in the front row of the whole situation.
Yeah, it was brilliant. People don't realize how much politics really do make a difference. One quick story I'll share is Mr. Duvall, on the very first day of shooting, we were shooting out at Westlake Village, and it was a brand new director, Marco, who was brilliant. I love Marco. And he had been the second unit director on the Austin Powers movie. So this was his first time as the director of the movie. And after the first take, he goes over to Mr. Duvall and goes, hey, I'd like you to do this. And Robert just looks at him and goes, don't tell me how to act. I know what I'm doing. This is my character. And everybody, you saw them gathering around the directors to support him. Well, Duvall comes out again, does it again. And I see Marco go, okay, and goes over to talk to him. And Duvall blows up and says, don't tell me what to do. He goes, I'm done. And he walks off the set. He leaves. Now, I was really good friends with Duvall. And you remember, it was over $250,000 a day budget. And this is really our second or third shoot of the whole day. And I'd see when Duvall shouting at Marco, everybody else pulled away, moved away, and suddenly this director standing on his own. So he went over, got with his driver, Frankie, who gets in the car and they're driving away. Well, I ran over to the car and I said, Mr. Duval. And he puts, I goes, yeah, Dan. He goes, is everything okay? And he looks at me, he goes, yeah, I'm just letting them know who's in charge. I'll see you tomorrow. And drove off. So when you're a big star, you set your standard on stage on the first day, and money is not their issue. It's making sure they're treated right. And it's a tough business.
That is, wow. That's pulling back the curtain and giving us some insight there. Thank you for sharing with us that. You've worked with some remarkable people and actors that many of us have enjoyed their movies, that's for sure. When it comes to coaching actors and coaching athletes, what would you say are some similarities that you've experienced over the years where you'd say, yeah, coaching actors and coaching athletes, there's some similarities to it?
I would say, and that's a great question, it depends on the level of the person I'm working with. So if I'm working with a top actor and I'm working with an Olympic world record holder, both of them have the mindset and focus of a champion. It doesn't matter what field they're in the competition of being their best. And so they may have different technical skills, but I found the mindset tends to be unique and special because they both have goals, targets, and responsibilities. And so if an actor doesn't really care, they won't get to the top. And we've seen it, actors, they get somewhere, they get too full of their own britches. They think they're great, and then suddenly they're gone. The business would keep them only as long as they're making money. And with athletes, it's not about becoming number one. It's about when you're number one, how big a space can you create between you and the number two that's chasing you? And so if you lose that hunger, and maybe it was said best by marvelous Marvin Hagler, when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard out in, I believe it was Vegas, and he lost on a points decision, and he retired right after the fight. And a lot of people were wondering why, because I watched it. I loved Marvin, and I thought he won the fight. And he turned around and he said some incredible short sentence. He goes, do you know how hard it is to train when you're wearing silk pajamas? And I love that because he lost his hunger. And that goes with all of us, right? I have this saying that I teach with one of my companies, that aging is the excessive pursuit of sedentary comfort. Let me say that again. Aging is the excessive pursuit of sedentary comfort. And as we begin to age, we want to sit down more. We want to be taken care of more. We're not as hungry as we were when we were a young kid, when we were in our teens, when we had goals, dreams, and ambitions, and we were willing to put in the work, because the magic we seek as we age is in the work we avoid. We know we should be doing it, but we avoid it because we want comfort, and then we age. So, as long as you keep your mindset, your goals, and your ambition high, and you're willing to do the work, I can work with anybody.
I love this, Dan. This is so powerful. And yes, I often see in myself and other people, as we age, we want more comfort. We just want more comfort. We want a more comfortable chair to sit in. We want to, when you're younger, you're just like, hey, I'll sleep on the floor, I'll sleep on the bed, whatever. But as you age, you want a more comfortable bed. All the areas of our life, we want more comfort. And I like how you compared that to the hunger, that the comfort can not always be a bad thing, but it does say that we're not as hungry or passionate or driven as maybe we were when we were younger. And that losing that drive of some sort, I can see where that leads to decline in our mindset, decline in our physical health, and other things as well. So that's really fascinating to me. And, the reality is that everything that we desire is outside our comfort zone. And otherwise, we'd already have it, because we're always driven to try to get more comfort as we age. So that's a really insightful nugget that you just threw out there. I'm really resonating with that for sure. That leads us right into talking about the Born Superhuman. Let's go there, and then we'll talk more mindset, because I think that you have so much that you have learned and that you share whether it's with your coaching or whether it's through the books you've written or the seminars and keynotes that you do. You have so much to teach us when it comes to being born superhuman and our mindset. So where did the idea Born Superhuman originally come from for you?
It was a discovery. I had no intention of coming up with this name, but I was out on a bike ride. I was racing the Ironman, as part of my life, and very athletic things that I challenged myself to do after coming back from paralysis. And I was out on a bike ride one day, and I came through a guard gated community, and the security guard brought down a metal gate on my head at about 22 miles an hour. I was knocked unconscious for about 3 minutes. Part of my brain died. I had to learn to talk again, learn to function. I had to learn to speak properly again. I put on a bunch of weight, went through PTSD, depression, all these different things, and nobody was helping me. I didn't know where to turn because everyone that I did turn to just wanted to put me on drugs. And I don't believe that drugs are the solution. I think they can be the kickstart because I'm not anti-medication, but I believe the body is designed to heal. We're all born to heal. If you think about it, Bill, and anyone listening, think about a baby you've seen born, or even yourself when you were born. We won't remember it, obviously. But the moment that umbilical cord is cut, that baby, for the first time since conception, is on its own, completely on its own. And the system kicks in. The doctor didn't say to the baby, "Are you ready?" It was just thrown in. And the first breath the baby takes is, and it starts crying because the first breath is painful. But immediately you'll hear a baby will begin to take shorter, shallower breaths right after the first one, because the brain goes, that was painful. How do I get rid of the pain? So we take shorter breaths. So it's adapting to the conditions already. If we were that brilliant when we were a baby with really 86 billion brain cells, but no synapse to bring them together and how to function, why aren't we the same when we're 30, 40, 50? The system hasn't changed. And yet we tend to give up and rely on somebody else to save us. So that's where Born Superhuman came along, because as I went through my journey, and anybody that knows me knows I study, but it's not just study, I live it. If there's something I want to find out if it works, I will put myself in there as the guinea pig, as the proof. And as I go through it, if I trust it, I'll bring in my friends, my family, try, let's do this. And every single time when people commit with the right mindset, we see success. And that's part of it, is mindset. So coming back from my brain injury, I went and studied the brain. And I believe when I came up with the name Born Superhuman, we all are born. I didn't say perfect, because perfect's an opinion.
Yes.
We're all born superhuman. Why have we let go? And with that, as I discovered my own journey back to full health, I'm as fit as I have been in the last 30 years, and began to put protocols together, both for business and for health and for happiness. Why is it that we think miracles happen when the reality is we should all be living miracles every day because it should be normal?
Ooh, that's really good. That's so good. You often say that we are we are capable far more than we realize. I think that's the phrase. We're capable far more than we realize. Dan, what do you mean by that?
I can go to a study that was done back in 1968 by Dr. George Land. He was brought into NASA, and NASA wanted to find out in 68 who were the top 2% creative scientists they had. Of course, they got brilliant scientists, but because they were expanding the space program, they wanted to find out who were the best out-of-the-box thinkers. So he came up with this test, very simple, and he discovered who the top 2% were and gave the results to NASA. But he thought, the test is really simple. Let's go see how kids do on it. So he took it to kids that were 4 and 5, about 1,300 kids, if I remember correctly. And they tested, 1,600 kids, the number I just remembered exactly. 98% of those kids at the age of 4 and 5 had the same creative genius that those top 2% had at NASA, because the mind hadn't been changed to think a certain way. They were creative, we would think. Well, then he followed them and made it a longer study and went back and saw them at the age of 10, 9 and 10. What do you think from the age of 4 and 5 at 98%. What do you think the percentage was at 9 and 10?
Gosh, I have no idea. Probably 60% or 70. I don't know. Something lower. That's for sure.
That's close. It's 30%. So
Wow,
think, you got,
30%.
you got a 68% drop between the age of 5 and 10. So then he went on and studied them, followed them for another 5 years, 14 and 15. And then he did a study. The same test. How many kids do you think at 14 and 15 were of that same genius state?
Well, if we were at 30% before, we're probably, I don't know, 10%, 12%.
Right. It was 12%. So you
Okay.
think in 10 years,
Woo.
we had been taught to lose our creative genius. And yet we know entrepreneurs, business people that are successful, they have to be creative. You can't sit in a box and become a
Mhm.
leader in business. There has to be something that drives you. But then he continued it and went and did the test with over 1 million people over the age of 30. 2%. That was it. So everyone
2%.
listening to this, 2%, which was the same number as the top scientist, 2%. So everyone that's listening to this, the chances are you're in the 98th percentile of not having creative genius, but it's still there. We've just numbed it down. We've dumbed it down. And if we look at how happy we were as kids with playing, we may not have had
Mhm.
a great childhood. Everyone's different, but we were still happy when we were able to create, even if it was
Yes.
hiding from trauma. And so when we come back to the question that you asked, and why is it that we limit ourselves ultimately? I say our mindset is the limit. And we
Mhm.
self-impose because we've given up our brilliance and we've limited ourselves to think what happened in school, it's right or wrong. We're all looking for right, but the reality is there is no one
Mhm.
single right. If I said to you, what's 2 plus 2? What's the answer?
4.
Right. But if you said to a kid, what's 2 plus 2? And they said it's 5, instead of us saying, how do you get 5? We say, no, you're wrong. It's 4. But a kid could turn around and say, well, it's 2 plus 2, plus there's the equation of putting them together. That's how I came up with 5. And you
Mm.
go, wow, I didn't think of that. The answer actually is 4. But what a great way when we don't encourage it. And so with adults, when I'm working with them, I try and get back to the ability. And I have a whole system of rewiring the brain, which is very, very simple, but it does take discipline. And that's where, Born Superhuman came from, because I understand on the book that I have, it says, unleash the miracle within. That's all we got to do. Just unleash it. It's there, it's ready, and it's waiting
That's
to
right.
go.
That's right. And your book is absolutely fascinating. We want to make sure before we're done, we let people know how to get that book. And you have these 7 pillars.
Yep.
And I know one of them is mindset that we're going to go deeper in here, but tell us what the 7 pillars are and just give us a snapshot of these, and then we'll go deeper into mindset and cover that more in depth.
Sure. So when I went through the 7 pillars, within that, there's no such thing as just 7 things. It's like when someone says, this is all it is, this is the fix for health. If you take this supplement, you'll be healthy. No, there's multiple things in there. And it tends to be a sales tactic than it does caring about the person on the other end. So the first one, and I looked at it in order of importance. The first one is oxygen, breath work. How do we take carbon dioxide and maximize our breath oxygen intake? For example, just take a deep breath. Everyone take a deep breath with me. Just take a deep breath in and then blow out slowly. And notice on one breath how we automatically feel more relaxed. That helps our nervous system just on one. So when we learn to breathe better, we can change our nervous system from being in a sympathetic state, which is a stress, fight, or flight, into a parasympathetic. And when we're relaxed is when we can do our best work. And it's fascinating. And I'll share this because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that work out. Studies have just proven that when we go and work out and rush out of the gym, our body is in a stress state in the gym. And because we're rushing out, it doesn't have time to be able to go back into a relaxed state, because we'll do the last set as late as we can, run to the car, get in the car, rush home, take a shower, get to work. And they've shown that if you stop and commit 5 minutes of the end of your workout on breath work, you will recover 2.5 times faster, because the body goes from a stress, high intense state into a relaxed state. And when the brain and body go, I'm in a relaxed state, it goes to a healing mode, because it's not waiting to fight or flight. And it's fascinating. Just that breath work alone would change your whole on tape.
Well, I love that. And it's a good reminder for me. I know certain workouts I've done with like workout classes that have been in the past, there's the warm up, and then there's the workout, and then there's the cool down. But I would say personally, you just described me at the gym, Dan. I go in and I do a little bit of a warm up and some stretching, but then I do my workout, and I'm at the end, and I'm not. I can't think of the times that I actually do the cool down when I'm by myself working out. And so you just gave me a tip and a tool for my own recovery to take some time to do the breath work and the cool down, so that my body can regenerate and have better results.
For sure. And the cool down, sometimes I used to teach aerobics. I was an aerobics teacher at Powerhouse Gym and Gold's Gym and a bunch of stuff. And our cool down still had a high energy to it. It would stop and we'd be lifting the arms and moving the feet and keeping the energy. You can literally go sit in a corner and just take deep breaths and relax. It will give you a better recovery than actually cooling down, stretching or anything. So let's move on to number 2, because I know, time's going to be pushing. And I want to get through these. The second one is hydration. Hydration is critical. We know if you don't hydrate, the brain begins to shut down, the body begins to shut down. When I was a head coach on the Olympic program, we knew that roughly 3% dehydration could be up to 20% underperformance. And that's why it's so critical to stay hydrated. And 75% of adult Americans are in a chronic state of dehydration. It's the easiest. It's actually the first one. It's the second one that I teach, the first one of the physical that I teach, because it's the easiest one to get to. And I have a very simple program that teaches us how to stay hydrated. What people need to know is when you dehydrate, your brain will begin to shut down, your energy in your cells goes down, your muscles, we think about headaches, which is true, but also muscles beginning to slow down. The biggest impact is your brain. 25% of all oxygen, 25% roughly of everything we drink. And what's crazy is 25% of what we eat is consumed by the brain. So if you have a 500 calorie meal, 125% of that is consumed by the brain. We've got to take care of the brain. And to add to that really quickly, the heart, because we have 2 life forces in our existence. Our power force is our brain. That's where we have the strength, which is fed by the mindset we'll come to. And then we have the heart. The heart is our actual life force, because it's pumping the oxygen and the nutrients around our body that we need. If you're dehydrated, your blood thickens. If your blood thickens, the heart has to work harder. If the heart is working harder, we're burning more energy. Also, the blood's not going around our body as quickly, so we're not getting oxygen to the cells. And this is where we have to be focused. And I'm a huge proponent and push. If you want to do better in life, in any aspect, you've got to get your hydration correct.
So good. And so true. That's an area where so many of us are deficient. So that dehydration. Number 3 is sleep. So Tell us about the importance of sleep in these pillars.
I think everyone knows if you're not sleeping, you're struggling. And we've seen when we were younger, we could get away with it. But certainly when we get into heavy stress work, or we're not recovering as quickly, sleep is the recovery. It's the healing of the body. I could go into this deep, and when I teach people, we do get into this deep because I love it. The impact of sleep on the brain, how it's the healing time, what actually happens to the brain while we're sleeping, and the timing of what we eat. And I've been teaching this for years, and I love it now because I'm seeing all these people coming out with all these sleep classes and programs, and suddenly we know about the blue light and the screens, and we know it's great. It doesn't matter who teaches it. It matters that we get to recover. And when you look at things like Alzheimer's, dementia, along that, sleep is a huge driver, or lack of sleep is a huge driver to mental decline. And so
Yeah.
I won't go to sleep more, but sleep is critical. So you've got number one is oxygen, the breath. Number two is going to be your hydration. Number three is your sleep.
Hmm. And then I'll just kind of read the next two. You can kind of cover them: nutrition, followed by exercise.
Yeah, number four is nutrition. People will say we are what we eat. I believe we are what we think. But what we put into our bodies
Hmm.
is the determining factor. Inside our body, we have filtration systems. We hear now about gut health, which is one of my passions. And I've got a product I'm launching coming out next week that I'm beyond excited about. But once we have leaky gut, we can then get inflammation, contamination, toxins going up the vagus nerve into the brain, which causes inflammation, which everyone knows brain fog or heard of brain fog and dementia again, Alzheimer's, those type of things. But there's one thing I'd love to give as a tip to people. I used to be at about a 23% body fat, and I changed one word with my nutrition. You want to find
Really?
out your body part, and I'll tell you what this is, because we're all slightly different. What works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other. When you eat something and I eat something, I found out I'm gluten intolerant and stuff, so I have to change. But if I said to you, Bill, you're hungry, what are you going to do?
I'm
Go ahead.
gonna find something to eat. Yeah.
That's the word, we eat, right? That's our first thing. So we grab when we're hungry, the brain's telling, the gut's telling our brain, I'm hungry. The brain goes, I need to eat. And then we just throw something in the gut. I changed that word from eat to nourish. It's all it was. When I got hungry, I want to
Ooh, come
nourish.
on.
I went from roughly 22% body fat down to an 8.2% body fat without changing anything except that one word. And what happened? I used to grab cakes, cookies, candies, bread, all the other stuff that was a quick fix. And suddenly, very quickly, started looking at that and going, I'm not attracted to it. I don't want that. Where can I nourish? And that's why we overeat, because there's empty calories. There's no nourishment. The body needs nourishment, not food. Food is the carrier for nourishment. So anybody, if you're out there and you want to get healthier and get into better shape, just change that word from eat to nourish. I suddenly started seeing fruit and wanting that. I saw the salad. So that's critical.
I love it. That's a huge tip. Yes, absolutely. And then of course exercise, movement is key to healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, the brain is movement. Movement is the brain. We look at the neurochemicals that are released, the dopamine, the BDNF, the serotonin. A lot of people will be depressed and they'll go on serotonin, supplements to help them take away the depression. But movement is a huge release of serotonin. But when we're depressed or not feeling like we want to do anything, we sit there. We don't want to move. But the secret is already in us. It's not a secret. We know it. We just don't want to do it. Again, the magic we seek is in the work we avoid. And movement
That's good.
feeds the brain, and the brain feeds the muscles. And if you look at a baby again, the baby didn't have to go to the gym to get strong. It had to move. And we'll see it with our dear seniors that are beginning, they lose quality of life. It all starts from inability to move like they used to. So if you don't use it, you lose it. And exercise, muscle strength, there's all these different fads that are out, or things they talk about, just lifting heavy. Well, that can be dangerous for someone that hasn't lifted heavy. But for me, get out and move, increase your heart rate, challenge yourself. And it's incredible how it changes your life very quickly.
Absolutely. And getting out, moving, walking, doing some various things that can really make a big difference. And then we're going to come back to mindset. And then the seventh pillar is challenge. What do you mean by challenge?
When we were kids, we always challenged ourselves without seeing it as a challenge. We'd wake up, get an idea, and we'd go and do it. And look at the neuroplasticity in our brain. In fact, our brain has great neuroplasticity. So roughly around 26, 27, when we get set in our ways, we begin to do the same thing, same job, and the brain doesn't have to challenge itself anymore. When we don't challenge ourselves, we decline. And that's why when
Hmm.
people say, why would you put challenges in? I said, do something that's not easy to do. There's a part of the brain called the um, anterior mid-cingulate cortex. When you challenge yourself, and that surrounds the corpus callosum between the right and left side of the brain, when you challenge yourself, that grows, the neurons around there get activated. And those people that have a longevity in life and live a long time healthily, not just existing, but living, when they've done autopsies, they found they have a bigger anterior mid-cingulate
Mm.
cortex than those that just took an easy route out. So if you want to progress, challenge yourself every day on something. It could be something as simple as I'm going to get up 10 minutes earlier. It's a challenge. I'm getting uncomfortable. To then,
Hmm.
I want to go on a walk. I keep setting goals. Don't set little goals, set ultimate goals. Dream biggest and go for it, because along the way, you'll achieve so much. Even if you don't achieve the ultimate goal, the rewards are still yours.
That's fantastic. Okay, I love these pillars. So let's talk for a few moments here, which is really one of your specialties, is mindset, and you've been giving us pieces of mindset all along the way. So I really appreciate that. But when it comes to our mindset, what's some things for us to be aware of, and what are some ways in which we can improve our mindset when it comes to our health and the well-being of our life?
I believe we got to have a bulletproof mindset. Bulletproof mindset is one that no matter what comes at us, we're in control of our remote control. Nobody can
Hmm.
take our remote control and impact us in a negative way that's not good for us, and we can be confused. So if we look at the brain, and the brain and mindset are two separate things. When you look at the brain, it's the most incredible technology in the world. But like a computer, it can only function on the information it's given. And our mindset would determine how the brain functions. There was a study that came out recently, which was fascinating, that shows whatever we tell ourselves, the brain goes hunting for evidence to support what it's been told. So if you say, I'm getting sick or I don't feel well, and I'm gonna get sick, the brain goes hunting for that information and goes, oh yeah, my muscles are aching. Oh yeah, I'm beginning to feel a little bit stuffy
Mm.
in the nose. And that supports it. So the brain carries us in the way what it's been told it should do. If we turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to heal, I'm going to get better, or I'm going to get that job, or I'm going to achieve this goal, the brain will start searching for evidence to support what it's being told. So it go, if it's let's just say a race that we want to go in and we want to do really well in a race, the brain will go, oh yeah, I can feel my legs getting stronger. I can feel my breathing's getting better. Yeah, I'm sleeping better at night. It's a byproduct of the work we're doing, but the brain then has that ability to feed off of the mindset. So that's the first thing. We have to recognize what we tell ourselves is exactly what the brain is going to believe, because the brain doesn't know the difference between fiction and truth. Let me say that again. The brain doesn't know the difference between fiction and reality. Easy way to explain it.
Mm.
Bill, you ever had a dream and you've woken up in a nightmare or a dream and you're either excited or you're scared?
Yes.
Yeah. And your body is feeling that. The heart rate's up. You might be sweating. You look around, you feel nervous having to tell yourself it was a nightmare. And when you tell yourself it's a nightmare, you then calm down. Well, how can it
Hmm.
be if the brain is not reflecting on reality? Why
Mm.
would we have the same physical reactions if the brain knew it wasn't true? That's the power of the mindset telling the brain, and everything reacts off of that. So that's the first thing. We got to look at it. Then we got to start saying we do become our environment. Eventually, we become our environment. So the most important environment you build is the one inside you. It's the most important because you can remove yourself from negative spaces to protect your environment, or negative thoughts to protect your environment, when you know exactly who you are. And part of mindset is character building. That's one of my
Hmm.
big controversial topics. We won't go into that today, but character will determine the direction you take in your life, and your character will influence your mindset, but your mindset will either develop and increase the power of your character, or your mindset will destroy your character. So I put the
Oh,
two of
Dan,
them
that is
together.
Yeah, that is so good. And I think that's something that we don't talk enough about, hear enough about, is how do we develop our character? I don't know your thoughts. I think that our character is played out by our values. So we don't hear a lot about values either, but then it leads into our character. And in so many areas, our character is more important than any giftings you have or talents you have, because it's a great indicator as to how far you're going to be able to go based upon the whole issue of character. So, wow, that's a whole nother conversation. But anything you want to add about character, because that's so interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah, you talk about values, I put it down as non-negotiables. So if I said to
Hmm.
you, Bill, you're late for a meeting, the light's about to turn red, you know you got to get there, and suddenly your dog runs out in front of the car and you could stop and let it cross. Would you drive through that dog to make them in and kill the dog? Would you do that?
I wouldn't personally.
No. So it's not even a thought. And I would say
Hmm.
pretty much everybody would be that's our character. We care the value of that dog, and that what we're given, we might be mad, we might be shouting at, we might be angry, but we wouldn't kill a dog. That's a non-negotiable. If you wouldn't do that, why would you kill yourself? Why would you have negative thoughts and allow them to fester? Now, most people that are listening do speak negatively to themselves. Why?
Hmm.
That should be a non-negotiable, because you wouldn't speak to somebody else that you're mentoring in the same way and say, God, you're terrible. I can't believe I did that. What an idiot. Well, that
Hmm.
message goes into your brain and the brain goes searching for evidence. So that becomes our preset now. And I call that the subconscious. So if we want to
Hmm.
change our mindset, we have to make the subconscious, and we're talking about from years past. If it's something new, we can set it right from the start. But if it's something that's part of our history, our trauma, we have to make the subconscious conscious, figure out what the messaging we keep telling ourselves, and then train ourselves not to do that, to then allow it to become our new subconscious. So we go from mindset to mind reset. And when we reset, we now have our new mindset. But if we're not happy or something's not there, we then go back to a mind reset. And we keep doing that until our habits allow us to be on this upward trajectory that allows us to have a bulletproof mindset, because we recognize before it impregnates our thoughts that it's a negative thought and that's not who I am, because it won't lead me to the dreams, goals, and the born superhuman that I was.
Dan, this is so friend that's on the other end listening, are you taking all this in? I would say you need to, as I'm going to, you need to rewind like the last 2 minutes and listen to what Dan just said again. That is so profound. I highly recommend you doing that on the whole aspect of our mindset, um, so that we can we can get that new neuroplasticity and have the new thoughts and the renewing of our mind that causes us to have our mind looking for the dreams and the positive things that we desire to play out in our life. That is so helpful, uh, Dan. So interesting. Okay, we only got a few more minutes, but tell me anything else that would be uh, for us to know when it comes to addressing our mindset. I'm just absolutely loving this.
Yeah, it's impossible to lose. We can't lose if we learn. And that's change the word lose to learn.
Mm.
So when things go wrong, what is the lesson that we should be learning from the change? I have a saying, every level has its own devil. So as we want
Hmm.
to rise higher, we have to understand what is the block? What's the devil stopping us getting there? And so many people get stuck refusing to learn the lesson because they don't want to face the toughness, or they're not actually looking for the lesson. They think, well, I just can't. And they keep bashing their head against the same block. He says, stop for a minute. What's the lesson? How do I pivot? Because I don't believe in roadblocks. I believe in obstacles, and obstacles are made to go over or go around. And so when we
Good.
can change and say, it's impossible
Mm.
to lose if I learn, but I only lose if I refuse to learn. And we don't know, as I said earlier on, we don't know why we're going through what we're going through, but it's preparing us for something else. There's the word resilience, and we all know successful people have incredible resilience. It comes from the
Hmm.
Latin resilire, which means to rebound or bounce back. Well, you can't rebound or bounce back unless something hits you or you hit something. It's the only way. That becomes the challenge. The challenge, which is why my number 7 pillar, it builds resilience. We don't get resilience going through something. We only get resilience when we come out the other side. And then we're strong to go through the next thing. So go for challenges, build the resilience, learn the lessons, love the uncomfortableness, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and make that part of your everyday life, because it's incredible how proud you'll be of yourself. And go for the biggest dream you've ever had. Don't quit. Find it. And I guarantee you'll love yourself and be proud of yourself for taking that first step over the start line.
Oh, so encouraging. I'm so motivated right now and inspired, excuse me, by the things you're sharing. I want to get to, I almost feel like I have to have you back sometime, Dan, to just dive into this more. It's so fantastic. Or how about even better, let's see about how we can do a leadership event in person together and really, really pour into some people in a room together. I'd really
Love
dream
to.
about us doing that sometime together. But you're excited about some stuff now. You've covered your backstory. We've talked a lot about this whole aspect of these 7 pillars, which I love. And I love that it's 7 pillars, because my book, Priority Living, 7 Pillars to Make Your Life Count, are also 7 pillars. So we've got that in common as well. My pillars are going a little different direction than yours, but I think if we add your 7 and my 7, we could really live an outstanding life. We could really make our life count. But what are you most excited about now? I'd love for you to share with us what you're working on now, what's right before you, and what you're excited about.
Yeah, I had bad gut health. I think most people do. We know it's a major problem in life itself. A lot of it's because of bad food that we're consuming and the way that we're not taking care of the gut. So I've got a Born Superhuman gut health and healthy living drink coming out. I went and found the top formulator in the world. We have 74 natural ingredients in this small drink. It actually tastes good. There's no sugar. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, no sugar, and it tastes good. And it's got the latest and greatest and quality. We check every ingredient that goes in there. We check for its purity. It's incredible. And I've been trying it for 6 months, giving it to my family, to my friends. The results, I went from feeling bloated, feeling tired. We know we're carrying around a lot of crap. And that's not just emotionally, that's physically.
Yes.
When we've seen it where people remove 15, not on my drink, but we've seen where people can be carrying around 15 pounds of toxic waste in their gut. Well, that's why I went for it. I believe it's the biggest turnaround we can have. Take care of our gut, and that will allow the nutrients to come around. It stops our body being tired and drained. Born Superhuman health drink. I couldn't be more excited.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to put the link to that in the show notes. So if you're interested, I hope you are, to try this drink and let it make a difference in your gut health, I want to encourage you to get on that link that's there in the show notes. And I'm excited to try it myself, Dan. It's very, very timely and very exciting that you've been putting all the effort into this with your team. And so just tell us again the name of the drink, so as we're looking for it as well.
Sure. It comes from, I partnered with a company called Nutriments, and it's Born Superhuman with the most incredible formulator. And I'm 100% confident there's nothing on the market like it. And we didn't put anything in there unless it works together. So you've got the probiotics, prebiotics. We've got, we do have one peptide that's in there. That's the only one that's been shown, and it's on the good list, that has been shown to be absorbed by the stomach. Most of them won't be absorbed. And it's, I can't read out 74 ingredients, but it's Born Superhuman with a company called Nutriments. But if they go to bornsuperhuman.com, you'll put the link in there, that they'll be able to go and see it there as well.
Fantastic. I love it. I can't wait to experience that for my own gut health. So that's outstanding. We always like to wrap up an episode by some priority living questions, and I have some that have been formulated for you. And so we'll just go through these. We don't have to have long answers, just whatever off the top of your mind, but love to hear you give your insight into these questions. So the first one is, Dan, when you hear the phrase priority living, what does that mean to you?
That's a great question. And it's very simple for me to answer. What is the most valuable thing you have in life? If I asked you that, Bill, what's the most valuable thing you have in life?
Boy, that's a great question as well. I think I'd start with, I'd start with my health, because if you don't have your health, your quality of life diminishes significantly. Obviously, there's other aspects like relationships and so on, but I think for me the most important piece of what I have is faith and my health. It'd be a combination of those things.
It's beautiful. What I teach, and again, everyone's right. I'm not telling anybody how to think. For me, the most valuable thing we have is time. Because when time is gone, everything's gone. But this is where it comes down to priority living. What we do shows what's most important to us. So if someone sits on the sofa with the remote control and does it for 10 hours a day, but they say, I want to be healthy, they're lying to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the danger, because we do what's most important to us. So if you want to improve and increase your quality of life, you have to put things in priority of what really means the most to you. Because it doesn't matter how much you say, I want to have a six-pack or I want to get a better paying job. If you're not willing to invest the time and move the work that needs to be done up the level, we really don't have the priorities in right order. So time's the most valuable thing we have. What we do with our time shows what's most important to us. If you want a better life, put the priorities in the right order.
Outstanding. That's right on. What's one priority that you wish you had discovered much earlier in life?
Numbers. It's that simple. Because I opened a company, and it was an invention that I created. I actually dreamt of it, woke up, made it, and we did $13 million of sales in the first 16 months online. And it was a huge hit. And I had over 70,000 clients, and we were flying, and I didn't know my numbers. I just thought they were going to keep coming in. I didn't have the discipline to go and learn the numbers that's really important for business. And I stepped away as the CEO. Another CEO came in, took over. And in 6 months after that, we were $2 million in debt. And I came back, went to Wharton Business School, graduated as their exemplary student on the online course during COVID. And I learned, know your numbers. And that could be for anything, for your health. Know your numbers. What's my body weight? What is the amount of fat that I have? Know the numbers. The more you have data, statistics, the better in anything you can do. How many times did you tell your partner you love them today? If you don't know how many times you said it, learn to count, because there's a number in there that makes them feel special and builds the relationship.
So good. Numbers. Wow. Next one. What priority are you intentionally practicing today?
Health, for sure. Working out. I have non-negotiables. I race my bike twice a week. In races, I get out and I bike 3 training days, 2 race days a week, and between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock every morning. And I get up around 5:30 every morning. That is my non-negotiable. The healthier I am, the more I can help people.
Fantastic. So true. Okay, I got 2 more. This one you just answer or fill in the rest of this. Complete the sentence, I guess is how we say it. Dan, a life well lived is...
Oh, that's a good one. A life well lived. Oof. Being proud of the memories you've made before it's too late to make them.
Wow, powerful, profound. And then finally here, Dan, if you just imagine someone listening today and they feel exhausted, maybe discouraged, maybe they feel stuck, what's the first thing that you'd want to tell them?
Go to the mirror, look at yourself and see your value. Learn to fall in love with yourself, not because of how you look, not because of what you're doing, but because of the potential that you have. And self-love is essential. It's not selfish. And so if you can go in that mirror, look in there and find the good things about yourself and start bringing those to the front and be honest with yourself. Why am I tired? Why am I exhausted? What am I doing? I think I don't have enough time. Maybe I don't have the right discipline of time. But when you fall in love with yourself and stop giving the power away to other people and take time for yourself, it's amazing how you can wake up and live again. And remember, if the pilot light is still on, the flame can be immense. Let me say that again. If the pilot light is still on, the flame can be immense. Everyone's pilot light is still on. Go put the fuel to the potential.
Thank you, Dan. I'm just so grateful for this conversation. And I know our friend listening on the other end has been inspired and encouraged and educated, equipped in so many ways. So Dan, thanks for your inspiration through this conversation. Thanks for not only sharing your story, your accomplishments, but also the lessons and the wisdom that you have gained that you've shared with us. I just want our listeners that are walking away challenged to think differently about their health, about their leadership, about their incredible potential that we all have within them. It's so remarkable. So Dan, for those that want to connect with you, we're going to put some links in the show notes, but just tell us, for the listener that's like, I need to connect with Dan Metcalfe. Where do they find you?
Thank you. Yeah, if you go to Instagram, that tends to be my main center. You go to Dan Metcalfe, that's METCALFE_official. Dan Metcalfe official on Instagram. That's where I post most of my stuff. I have Born Superhuman on Instagram as it is. And then we have bornsuperhuman.com as a website. And if there's anybody that wants to work on brain and fitness health or balance loss, you may have parents that are falling or full risk or losing their balance and mobility, go to totalbalancecompany.com. That's totalbalancecompany.com. And you'll find a lot of my teachings there on brain health and recovery as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. And please reach out to Dan. He's a great resource. And now I got this thought of us coming up with the right time and place to do a conference together. I think that'll be fantastic. Well, hey, friends, thanks for joining us today for another episode of the Priority Living Podcast. I believe today's conversation has encouraged you, maybe inspired you. Please subscribe. And I know you've thought of somebody along the way. Wow, they really need to hear this. So go ahead, share this episode, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Share this with a friend. Heck, go through your whole iPhone or whatever phone you use and share it with everybody. Tell everyone this is an episode that will really make a difference in their life. So please do that. And remember, your life doesn't change by accident. It changes by priority. So until next time, I'm Coach Bill Goodwin saying thanks for joining me. And until we talk again, go make your life count.
Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, I'm your coach, Bill Goodwin, reminding you to live intentionally, lead powerfully, and make your life count.